this presentation is based on a DC project, which is an internal project at USACH that intends or seeks to explore the contribution of English in the development of environmental awareness and environmental literacy, mainly in these three areas: knowledge, attitudes, and behavior. So, wait a minute. So we have this theoretical basis here on the left side. We have environmental humanities, on the right side, eco-pedagogy. And we will refer to those in a minute, but I would like to stop a little and explain this conceptual map that we have come up with. And that starts in its microsystem with literacy, having the main actors, students and educators. Then it is framed under two components, which are linguistics, applied linguistics, and English teacher training, which constitute in themselves a mesosystem. And both components are based on Bronfenbrenner's, which is a very difficult name to pronounce, excuse me, bioecological model. And that model has the following exosystems that you can see there: economic, educational, political, governmental, and the media in terms of discourse. And in the biggest umbrella, the macro system would be the one of values and cultural norms.
Okay, now it's my turn. Hello, everybody. As was shown in the previous slide, okay, we're interested here in the micro, meso, and macro dimensions that are involved in English teaching education, okay? And Andrea mentioned that was from ideas from Brenner, a very difficult name to pronounce, from the ecobiology of human learning, but that was adapted in our field by the Douglas Fair Group in their model of second language learning in multilingual communities. So that is what it is important. And I forgot to mention at the beginning that when Andrea was presenting how we started this project, that when we posed the question of how can we introduce environmental education and environmental literacy into English teaching education, at the very beginning, we realized that it was an interdisciplinary and there were many fields involved. And that's why in that particular slide, the previous slides, we had those two main pillars there that were environmental humanities and eco-pedagogy, okay? And here is the definition of environmental pedagogy. And as I mentioned, it is primarily an interdisciplinary field. As you see, there are many sciences, fields, disciplines that are involved, and all of them share the question of understanding nature and human beings, the definition of nature and human beings. So there you have environmental literacy, environmental philosophy, etc. Okay, and so their questions are questions dealing with culture, value, ethics, and responsibilities when facing environmental issues. One of the areas here in environmental literature is eco-criticism. That is a very important component for our project because we want to orient the teaching of literature into that particular field. Okay. Here's another dimension of environmental humanities, and what is important in this slide is the idea that environmental humanity bridges many fields, okay? And particularly for our purposes is the bridging between science and the humanities. And here there's also bridging of different cultures, indigenous ways of relating to the natural world. That is relevant for this project because we have read in our literature review that in the indigenous cultures um, um, possess a view of nature that is very consistent with environmental ecoliteracies. Okay, next.
Well, the other aspect or theoretical basis of our study here is related to ecopedagogy, which is, it derives, as you can see from the first, from this slide, it derives from Paulo Freire's project on critical pedagogy. So ecopedagogy implies mainly making changes on different levels: economic, social, political, cultural levels, right? In that sense, it departs, well, before I say that, it focuses on these changes because it would like to foster social justice, right? And in that sense, it is radically opposed to what has been predominant in the last years regarding neoliberalism and imperialism, right? So what ecopedagogy includes is, for example, the value of all species, right? The need to care for and live in harmony with the planet. That is very important. The aspect of the harmony, which, going back to Miguel's point, indigenous people seem to have this very well incorporated in their way of life, right? And the third point that is included in ecopedagogy is the idea of the emancipatory potential contained in human aesthetic expression of nature. In ecopedagogy lately also has been incorporating some ideas of the philosopher Marcuse, who states the importance of biophilia, and also the importance that education goes beyond the classroom. I'm going to continue now. Ecoliteracy is one aspect that has been taken into account in our study. And as Miguel stated, ecoliteracy is very much interested in the idea of integrating different disciplines. So this is very important. And Roth distinguishes three areas, or recognizes three areas of acquisition of this literacy, mainly the nominal, functional, operational. By nominal, he means, or we mean, that is the recognition of concepts. So this acquisition is focused on the recognition first. Then the functional is focused on the acquisition of knowledge to formulate certain possible actions to be taken with regards to the environment, right? And the operational one, which is the last one, and it's broader, implies that in this acquisition of literacy, the students will perceive, environmental issues. They will collect and evaluate information that they have perceived, choose from alternatives, and then move on to the most important aspect, that is to take action.
Okay, moving up in this transition from the micro to the meso level. Okay, we have environmental education. And when we started this project, we looked into information on how environmental education was being dealt with in the Chilean context. And interestingly, we found that it was in the Ministry of Medio Ambiente, the Ministry of the Environment, where there were guidelines to include the environment in education. This was at the time when President Bachelet, I guess, was first. Bachelet, there was legislation requiring schools to have environmental education as a cross-sectional um, um, a cross-sectional topic in the schools. Okay. Again, now, in the last part of the slide there, you can read something that we want to highlight. Okay, this is criticism that comes from Latin America to this introduction of environmental education into the schools, and they say that it is a colonizing praxis. Okay, because it brings epistemes from the global north. We're very much aware of that, and that's why one of the pillars in the project is eco-pedagogy, because eco-pedagogy is a situated pedagogy that has to do with building the curriculum from the community rather than imposing a ready-made curriculum into the school. So we believe that we address this issue of colonization by this decolonizing move into integrating the community. And we have seen here in this conference, in this RESEL conference, for example, that there are projects by Michel Riquelme and our colleague Ramos in Iquique, that through the teaching of English in the Aymara community, what they're doing is approaching it from a decolonizing perspective. And the same thing with a colleague that working in Temuco with the Mapuche communities. In general terms, this issue can be addressed, for example, around the concept of inclusion, by taking into account, by introducing environmental literacy into the teaching of English through taking into account the local communities and their diversity. So, as Andrea mentioned at the beginning, we were interested in environmental awareness and environmental literacy, and some concrete activities that we carried out were building two instruments to measure environmental awareness and to measure environmental literacy. And we implemented a course on environmental literacy in which the main activity were eco-journals. And these eco-journals are influenced by a pedagogy of place and a pedagogy of narrative, because they are narrative accounts that the students keep, and they write about certain prompts that are given. And this is what we're going to show this time in this conference: the results from an analysis of this eco-journal. Okay, next.
Yeah, just to reinforce a little bit what Miguel was talking about regarding eco-pedagogy, it is very important what Miguel said, that it emerges from the South, the global South, right, with Freire's ideas, and mainly because there is a contrast between environmental education and environmental literacy that emerged more from the North. So this idea of incorporating eco-pedagogy is quite interesting in that sense, bringing some kind of power in one way or another to the global South. Well, going back to the Eco Journal, concept that Miguel was talking about, we gave several prompts for students to write the eco-journals. Here are some: environmental assessment of the community, for example, eco-friendly measures, news on the environment. They had to, look for news nationally and internationally, and a critical opinion of COP25 that was this encounter. So in orange or yellow, we have the two, we selected these two prompts to analyze them. And I will show you the results. This was analyzed under a corpus linguistic tool, and we can see from the word cloud that certain concepts emerge as more important or recurrent, like people, municipality, trash, things, plastic, recycling, bins, waste, etc. So I'm going to talk a little bit about now what certain notions that appeared in the journals and that are coherent with what the word cloud shows us. And first, that recycling seems to be the strategy that is most common in the communities. If there is anything that the community offers, recycling would be one of the most important, or the sole aspect or strategy that is offered. Regarding information, I think this is a very interesting point, because our students perceive that there's no information available, for example, or if there is, it is very difficult to access. Right, so that is something that tells us that there has to be some action taken with regards to that. And the second point here is that very little environmental education is present in schools. There is some, but not as it should be. And I think the most crucial point here is what appears in the third point, that is the lack of awareness that our students perceive regarding the severity of the ecological situation. So it seems that there were comments like people don't care about what is going on, people don't pay attention, they don't take the time to find out. And since there is not enough information and people do not take the time, the results are not the best.
I know that we're running out of time, and that this presentation is going to be in the net. So very quickly, I would like to finish by presenting the second point. Okay, the eco-friendly measures, and there you see in this word cloud the concepts that were more prominent. Okay, can we move on to the next? Here there are some ideas that came up. Remember that what we're trying to do is transition from knowledge to attitudes to behavior. Okay, that's a key point in ecoliteracy. Okay, what I would like to say at this point is that ecoliteracy in the teaching of English is more than just a reading passage on the environment. It's more than just a list of vocabulary on environmental concepts, but it is an approach to the teaching of the language that involves this ecological perspective in taking into account the environment. So in this second prompt, you see this example, and let's move on to the next one so we can finish. Okay, there you have some ideas in that we believe that with this course, because this was a course that was taught in 2019 before the pandemic, and now it's being taught again during pandemic under a totally different reality, as you may guess. But these are some of the examples that they came up with, and let's show the next one. there you have a graphic example of some of these ideas that they found or that they themselves started incorporating into their lives. Okay, that's a project of having your own organic soap made at home. Okay, next.
So just very quickly, we selected some quotations from the students' journals that really reinforce the points that we have talked about with Miguel, the lack of information. But also I would like to state that the students are willing to incorporate different attitudes in their lives and take action, like some aspects that are stated here: small changes in our lives to help to stop climate change. We cannot depend on politicians, right? Others, like the only solution is to start recycling, traveling by bike, making compost. So although they recognize that there are very poor ecological strategies, we also have to have hope, because they are willing to contribute to a change and take action.
So to finish, okay, these are example, 3 more examples, and I'm not going, you can read them there, but there you have one dealing with plastic, the other dealing with the time you take to take showers, and the other is with the with eating habits. Okay, so that's our presentation. I think we are in time.
Yes, these are the references, and thank you very much. We are willing to accept any questions or comments.
Thank you very much. I'll stop the recording.